And welcome to Watch Party Wednesday, the first ever Watch Party Wednesday. I'm Chiefs reporter BJ Kissel, coming to you from my home office, joined by Matt McMullen as we rewatch some of the games as we're trying to be creative with our content here. This should be a whole lot of fun over the next 30 to 35 minutes. We're watching the Game Pass version, condensed version of the game. This should be a whole lot of fun. Matt, how excited are you to get to doing this?
I'm really excited, BJ. This will be a lot of fun. Kicking things off with week one against Jacksonville. Obviously went down to Jacksonville, first game of the year, scored 40 points. Huge game for Sammy Watkins. 3 touchdowns, like 1 billion yards receiving, if I recall. So really huge game for him. And stepping in for Tyreek Hill, who was injured in this game pretty early on, and how we dealt with that offensively.
Yeah, I think it was one of the bigger storylines early in the year was the fact that Tyreek did get hurt. And Patrick Mahomes rolling his ankle in this game. Now, obviously, he didn't miss much time, but the fact that he was dealing with that for the first few weeks of the season definitely was one of those storylines. And then you look at the other side, look at the other team, you look at the Jaguars and their quarterback situation and all the money they gave to Nick Foles, and then he gets hurt early in this game. And then Gardner Minshew gets an opportunity to step in and play. And then Minshew Mania was really born from this game. And then you think about what's happened and transpired over the last couple of weeks, and that Nick Foles gets traded to the Chicago Bears, and you can trace all of those moves back to this week one game against the Chiefs.
Definitely. And there were some weird things that happened in this game, too. Miles Jack, one of the better linebackers in the league, was thrown out of the game about halfway through. And then kind of like you mentioned, some weird transaction things that would happen. This was one of only 3 games that Jalen Ramsey would play for the Jaguars last year.
Yeah, it definitely looking at the Jaguars defense and what we saw from them even 2 or 3 years ago when they were so close to going to the Super Bowl. Guys like Telvin Smith stepped away from the game. And then just this offseason, or go back to Jalen Ramsey, like you said, he gets traded. And then this offseason, AJ Bouye gets traded and Calais Campbell gets traded. And this Jaguars team is going to look a whole lot different. But this week one game, going back and remembering, this was a team that felt really good about their chances. They got a Super Bowl MVP quarterback in Nick Foles that came down. They've got that defense. They were feeling really good about themselves. But the one thing is we go back and rewatch this game here, and just for everybody watching and keep the conversation going in the chat room, we're going to peek in there, doing the best we can to kind of have the conversation going on both sides. But 2 things real quick. One is that we're kind of treating this like we're watching it at a party, or we're watching this like at a bar and grill or a restaurant. So we're going to kind of talk over some of the plays and just things that stood out to us, kind of like you would if you were hanging out with your friends. But the other thing to know about this game is it gets cut off because the production truck had an issue during the broadcast. I didn't know because I was there in Jacksonville, but with about 6 or 7 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, this game is just going to end.
It's too bad. We'll miss things like Frank Clark's interception. And people don't realize this. On the road, I don't travel. We're not together. So I was watching it on TV like anyone else, trying to tweet about it and respond to what's going on. And I was watching our live stat feed, desperately trying to see what was happening in this game. So you were there. You can maybe talk about a few things that you saw.
I remember, we'll go through some of that stuff, but I remember you texted me during the game, you're like, we lost the feed, we can't see the game. And I was like, we as in who? You're like, everyone. I was like, no, that can't happen. Apparently that happened. So, all right, let's get going in this game, and we're going to go for kickoff right now. The 2019 NFL season. And Matt, this is the first career touch for Mccole Hardman.
Yep.
Thinking back to how much he contributed throughout this season.
Yeah, some huge returns late in the year to really spark all of our comebacks and rallies. This was his very first one.
They have a record-setting offense. All the points they put up a couple years ago with Patrick Mahomes. It's the first opportunity to get out there and play against somebody else. And again, going up against a Jaguars defense that was feeling really good about themselves.
Absolutely. And I think, there was some nervous energy coming into this season. You see how good the Chiefs were in 2018. Third best offense of all time. And then you come into this game, it's like, what's going to happen? And as we'll see here in a second, got things started pretty quickly.
Jalen Ramsey's fired up after that play, but right here, I don't know if it just didn't see it or a business decision, but right there, Sammy plants and goes, and he's gone. It's a good way to start the season.
I mean, how exciting is that? 3 plays, and Sammy Watkins just runs by everybody. His speed is so smooth here, just running by guys.
It was cool because during the preseason TV broadcasts and even on the website, everything, we talked so much about Rick Burkholder, the Chiefs vice president of sports medicine and performance, and all the work they did with Sammy during the offseason. He had so many problems in his career with his feet. and that he was having foot issues, which cost so many games for him, that they spent the offseason working on his hips and working on his glutes and everything around his feet, and not necessarily attacking the core problem, but trying to fix everything around it to try to make him feel better as far as him getting out there and running and seeing that explosiveness that we saw back when he was at Clemson that made him the number 4 overall pick. And it didn't take long for him to show that off this season.
Yeah.
And he has spun down immediately. In fact, it's a loss of 1 as Derek Nottie was over there.
So we'll get into this later, but that's a good example of a play right there. Leonard Fournette did not have a great game against the Chiefs in week 1, and he's really their bell cow, one of the better running backs in the league. And he had about 68 yards rushing with 2 big chunk plays, but the rest of it, the Chiefs really bottled him up.
Yeah. This is great coverage right here on Breland, using the sideline to his advantage. And old friend Chris Conley there. Yeah. He actually made a couple plays in this game that we'll see here later. But I think you bring up a good point about the run defense, because thinking it's easy to see now because we know what ends up happening throughout the course of the season. But going back to this, there's so many questions about the Chiefs defense and all the new additions and the overhaul of the scheme and all that this was the first opportunity for those guys, particularly for that run defense, to show what they could do.
Mm-hmm. And on the third play from scrimmage, Mahomes to Watkins for a long touchdown. Mahomes.
And Matt, I don't know how many times I've used this play as an example on a highlight reel of Travis Kelce, and just no matter who you put on him, this right here, AJ Bouye on an over route does a great job of getting over the linebackers in front of the safeties there for that hole in their coverage. But the athleticism to get out in space and to run like that, and again, to beat a guy like AJ Bouye, who he's going to see a lot more of now that he's been traded just a couple of weeks ago to the Denver Broncos for a 4th-round pick. We're going to see a lot more of AJ Bouye.
And that last play right there that passes Sammy Watkins, you and I talked about this before, the ability to stay in the pocket there and fire that. How many young quarterbacks, 24 years old, will stay in the pocket when they know a defender's coming in to get them and then fire a completed pass for a first down?
They get so much credit for all the highlight reel type makes, but some of those plays, just those simple 10, 12-yard gains, end up making all the difference in the world. And his ability to, like you said, hang in the pocket with chaos around him ends up being huge. But right here, just maybe gets a little fancy. He talked about it after the game, tries the no-look pass, kind of tells him right there that it's on him, but still take a nice quick 10-0 lead, 6 minutes into this game against a Jaguars team. Again, the way their defense was playing, the one thing I remember from being down on the sideline was just how fired up they were. They were talking a lot of trash. They were into this game up until about the middle of that third quarter. There was a lot of moxie, a lot of confidence coming from that Jaguars defense.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. This was a team that was a few plays away from making the Super Bowl just a few years ago, and had their new quarterback in Nick Foles, still had a really great defense, and got off to the wrong start against the Chiefs in week 1.
Like see right there, Juan Thornhill coming downhill again. At this time, he's a young safety, getting an opportunity to play early as a rookie, even though he was a top pick, coming down on Leonard Fournette and taking out his legs like that in a tackle is a good sign.
He led this game in tackles, actually.
Yeah, and this is a play right here, and we talked about this one, Matt. And I know that wasn't a running play, but to play cornerback for Steve Spagnuolo right there from Charvarius Ward, he's 75 pounds lighter than Jeff Swaim, that tight end that he came up and made the tackle on. If you look at Pro Football Focus's stats at the end of the season, and that Charvarius Ward was a number 8 in tackling, and he was the number 1 run defender among starting cornerbacks in the NFL. So that was a great example of Ward coming up and putting a hit on.
You think about remaking this defense over the last couple of years, and guys like Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, bringing them in here to change the culture. But also guys like Charvarius Ward in a trade 2 years ago. He was undrafted, trade Parker Enger, the Cowboys, for him, and to see how far he's come is pretty incredible.
It's a good job by the guys up front right there, Derek Nottie and company.
Shifts over to the line. Fake it. Protection is there. Folds through the hands of Fournette.
It's really weird to say we're watching the entire career for Nick Foles and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the next 6 minutes. And this was the beautiful throw right here. And I'm not sure, Matt, for Kendall Fuller, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to pretend to know the techniques and the coverages and all that, but he's right there in position. Besides, finding the ball and getting his hand on it, he's in position. He's right where he's supposed to be. That's just DJ Chark doing a great job of using his body to kind of screen him off. And a big-time throw from Nick Foles, what ended up being the last throw of his Jaguars career.
Yeah, phenomenal throw. Incredible catch. I didn't know much about DJ Chark before this game. I think you might have done a little bit about him in your pre-draft research. But, yeah, I didn't know much about him. But he had a great season. Started right here.
Yeah. I just know that Daniel Jeremiah, one of the top draft guys out there that we all know, was really high on him. And I remember that going into that game. But, yeah, that was also the play that Nick Foles had gotten hit, went down and broke, his collarbone. So he's done for the season right here. And that was really the beginning of Minshew mania. But, again, it was also a game that at this point, 10-3 was a close game. Yeah. Or, 10-7, 3-point game. The Jaguars felt like they had a chance, and then they were going to have to test their young quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, what people might not realize, we'll see it here as time goes on, but this game was close until almost the fourth quarter. Look at the box score, and it's a blowout, but and we'll get into it. But some things really had to come together for the Chiefs to pile up their points later on.
This is one of those plays. There's about 3 or 4 of these every couple of weeks from Sammy Watkins where they talk about when he gets the ball, he acts like a running back, that he doesn't go down easy, and that's a good example right there. And that's a good example of LaShawn McCoy early in the season showing what he could do. I want to comment on the section here. I saw that Trey Webb had a comment in the comment section talking about how hot it was. Yeah, it was actually at the game. That was one of the things looking back at this game of how hot it was, because the sideline, we were staring right into the sun the entire time. And the Jaguars defense, like we talked about in the second half, gets really, really tired. But I do remember how hot it was. This play right here is actually the one that Tyreek Hill ended up getting injured. And you're kind of feeling kind of bad. You don't really know how the Chiefs are going to react. And then they run this play, and Sammy Watkins gets himself open. Great play design for the touchdown. It's his second 50-yard touchdown in the first quarter. And the great thing, Matt, I love about this play is I can remember off the top of my head 3 times we ran this leak concept right here. We ran it this play, obviously, for the touchdown. We ran this against the Denver Broncos with Matt Moore throwing the touchdown to Tyreek Hill. Was the same concept. And we actually ran this in the Super Bowl to Sammy Watkins going to the opposite side. It was the long pass after the Rashad Breeland interception in the Super Bowl. We had the huge chunk play, which was also this leak concept to get him open. Just a great job by Andy Reid and company to execute that play.
Yeah, pretty cool to see how things translate over the course of a full season, right? You'd think whatever happens in week 1 doesn't matter in the Super Bowl, but it does. I mean, plays can be reused and moved around. Also, at this point, Sammy Watkins, only in the first quarter, he finished the first half with 173 yards. It was more yards that he'd ever had in an entire game, and he had it all in one half. What a game for him, and especially so far.
Yeah, he was on pace for like 32 touchdowns last season and 3,000 yards. It was huge, especially knowing coming off the Tyreek injury, and we kind of talked about that with Rick Burkholder and the sports medicine and performance staff and the athletic trainers and all them. The process they had in place, and this goes to the Jaguars athletic trainers too, when Tyreek Hill got injured, to be able to take care of him, get him to the hospital, to the trauma unit because of the type of injury it was huge, and one of those things that shouldn't get lost. We talk a lot about Patrick Mahomes against the Broncos and them running out there and resetting his kneecap. The same could be said for taking care of Tyreek in that situation with that injury he had. That the Jaguars had a plan in place to get him to the hospital, to make sure that he got checked out, and he was able to come back and make some huge plays down the stretch.
Yeah, still had a great season, and when he was gone, it felt like someone else every week stepped up, and this week was Sammy Watkins.
Taylor. Minshew is listed at 6'1". Shotgun, 1st and 20. Minshew.
This is one of those plays, Matt. I love this play. We watched this earlier. This Kendall Fuller, he's at cornerback now in off coverage, but you just see his ability to come downhill and make a tackle out in space. And we saw that in the postseason. He was predominantly playing safety, and that was just one of those examples of how good he is at coming up and making a big hit. We're going to see another one here in a little bit of just when he's got everything in front of him, when he doesn't have his back turned, he was really an enforcer in that backfield. And like we talked about Charvarius Ward earlier with his ability to play the run, that they've all got to do that.
And particularly in this game, Minshew was completing a lot of short passes. He started like 12 for 12. There's a lot of short passes, though. And if you can limit those to only small gains, which is pretty much what happened, you end up kicking field goals and punting quite often.
Yeah. The Chiefs ended up doing a lot of the same stuff, throwing a lot of those short passes just because Mahomes, after he gets hit here in a little bit, wasn't quite as mobile. They ended up throwing a lot of short passes, but there he is again. Beats A.J. Bouye earlier in a one-on-one situation, just outrunning him, and right here, just putting the move on Myles Jack. That's not fair to Myles Jack, who's one of the better linebackers in the NFL and one of the better linebackers, more athletic linebackers in space. And Travis Kelce, that's just not a fair matchup for anybody.
And Travis Kelce only had like 88 yards, only had 3 catches in this game, but it was for 88 yards. 2 huge chunk plays early in this game to get this offense going.
Hey, Kelly, we appreciate. We'll give you the shout out. You're subscribed. We appreciate your support. It was right here. Whoop! Woo-hoo. That is just a beautiful, beautiful move by Sammy Watkins. And you'll see this guy in a red polo standing up there, right there. That guy has got a great view of that move right there. That was just amazing. Between Sammy Watkins and Damian Williams, their ability to get extra yards by using their feet and just putting some moves on the sideline, it's a whole lot of fun to watch. We'll see it a little bit from Damian here a little bit later in this game, but it's a whole lot of fun.
Patrick Mahomes just covers up.
And this next play is the one that had Chiefs fans holding their breath, Matt.
Yep, this is where Mahomes tweaked his ankle.
Yep.
And I think, in 2018, Patrick was healthy all season long. Right away in 2019, he has the lingering injury you have to think a little bit about. And here's the skirmish that you were right down.
This is where there's a strong disagreement on the field. And like I said, I was down on the sideline. Mahomes is in the tent right now getting looked at with his ankle, so I don't know what's going on with him. And then Miles Jack and the Jaguars players are just losing their minds. It looks like Miles Jack right there is walking straight towards me. So I'm over on the sideline thinking I'm Matt Saracen, just be like, oh, you want some Swizzlers? Like, it was crazy how many different things were going on during this little melee right here. That obviously Miles Jack gets thrown out of the game and gets escorted out. But you see Mahomes on the sideline. Not quite as mobile, but he gets back out there. But, yeah, it was definitely surreal to see the Jaguars, I don't want to say implode, but just they kind of lost the pool as a group like that.
Well, BJ, quickly to finish my thought about Patrick tweaking his ankle here. The way he came back, and you're right, he wasn't as mobile the rest of the game, but how he still finished the game strong against what's a talented defense. He had a passer rating over 140 in this game. Threw for almost 400 yards. It's phenomenal.
Especially against that group on the road. Michael Cuevas, season ticket holder here. He subscribed, liked the video. I'll give you a shout out. We're just multitasking here. We got windows popping up everywhere. It's a whole lot of fun. This the Minshew mania? Was this where it was born?
I think so. Yes.
And I know that everybody's going to talk about Charvarius Ward right here, getting beaten coverage, but when you got a young quarterback who hadn't probably taken a lot of snaps, knowing Nick Foles was new down there for that offense, that there was no reason to think that Gardner Minshew could step up and make a throw like this in this situation. You see Tyrann Mathieu there taking some of those intermediate routes and just throws a nice pass, gets him behind the defense. And this is really where Gardner Minshew started to show that he could be a guy that could play at this level. And ultimately, not just because of that throw, but just ultimately they decided to move on from Nick Foles, trade him, and make it the Gardner Minshew show now here in Jacksonville.
When he first came in this game, not a lot of people knew who he was or what he was about. I think you knew a bit in some of your pre-draft stuff. What'd you know about Gardner before this game?
You know what's funny is Andrew Spruill, he's a trainer down at XPE Sports in Florida. He trains different guys getting ready for the Combine and things like that. And we had a chance, he's a Chiefs fan, we had a chance to hang out with him a little bit at the Combine. Anybody who's watched a lot of our Combine coverage, even this year with the franchise, saw Andrew and us working with him and doing some different interviews and things like that. But Gardner Minshew was one of those guys that was with that group. And I remember him kind of walking around, and he had like a sweatsuit, like a jumpsuit on. He had the Rocky theme music on his speaker, just running around the hotel at like midnight, just to be funny, goofy, just had a lot of personality. And I remember reporting during the radio broadcast for this game about Minshew that I don't know how he was going to play, but the moment wasn't going to be too big for him just because of his personality and just he was a leader. The guys kind of went to him. You see those goofy outfits that he was always wearing up in college that you didn't know how he was going to play, but he was confident enough to step in there and not feel like overwhelmed by the moment. That's for sure.
I think you saw that with how mobile he was and the plays he made in this game to keep it close for a while at least.
Look at Andrew Wiley. Look at the big guy down the field in that screen, just putting a guy on his back. That's the kind of stuff that I get excited about, Matt.
That's so people might not realize that we don't watch the games together anymore. You're on the field and I'm in the press box. So I do miss you going crazy about things that people aren't quite noticing.
Be going crazy without being able to say anything. Now I can cheer on the sideline. Now I can
crazy.
jump up and down and scream. You have to be quiet.
Yeah. It's not easy. Things like the AFC title game, trying to stay quiet in the press box.
Yeah. Again, nice push in the interior offensive line right there. It's good to see. And this is, we talked about this before. Going back to like training camp and when fans go out and they see us in the special cap periods, which is where they're working on situational football, that this is a perfect example of the 4-minute drive. And this is a perfect example of a one of the best athletes in the league somehow making 6-7 yards on that play, which is amazing from Sammy Watkins. But this is one of those drives where you want to take 3-4 minutes off the clock and not give the Jaguars the ball back with a lot of time. So even though they're throwing it, you're seeing these quick throws. You're seeing them basically an extension of their running game. And there we talk about Damian Williams on the sideline picking up yards. But again, this is a great job of the 4-minute drive, taking enough time off the clock to put points on the board, but not leaving the opposing team enough time to do anything to try to go down and put any points on the board as well. They work on this stuff going back to OTAs, like we said, in training camp, so they can execute it here, even in week 1 in a big situation.
Yeah, and it was executed really almost flawlessly. If they scored a touchdown, that'd be perfect. Got 3 points out of this drive, but I mean, it's a 7-point game right now. And march down the field, keep the ball out of the Jaguars' hands, and get 3 points going to halftime. You're feeling pretty good.
Absolutely. I expected him to complete that pass.
I did too.
I don't know why. Just every time he throws it, you feel like he's going to complete it. But we're going to give a quick shout out to Fox McLeod from Scotland. That's big time. We are worldwide right now. But Adam asks, how much do you expect out of Mccole Hardman this year? I expect a lot out of Hardman. You go back to rookie minicamp, Matt. You and I were watching those practices. It's kind of the same for all rookies. That you can kind of see the head spinning a little bit. They don't quite have the offense down, but he just picked it up. And the relationship that he and Patrick Mahomes have now, it's only gonna get better. It's only gonna get bigger. His role's only gonna expand.
Yeah, and leading the NFL in yards per catch. He technically didn't qualify by like a small margin, but he basically led the NFL in yards per catch. They have 6 touchdowns, a return touchdown. What a year for him.
Yeah. All right, right there. Get a 10-point lead. Only leave the Jaguars 24 seconds. Knowing the Jags are going to get the ball back to begin the second half, but the fact that they didn't leave him much time to try to do much, especially with a young quarterback, you don't want to put him back there in a situation where they're trying to get chunk yards to make a mistake to really blow this game out of proportion. But a couple of checks downs and don't really get anything on this drive. But yeah, for Mccole Hardman, the one thing, and Matt, we talk about this, especially around the combine, he talked about those second-year players, is that those guys spend, the rookie year going into the draft, all that time preparing for the combine, preparing for their pro days. They're not preparing to play a football season. They don't have their playbooks. They don't know what teams they're on yet. So right now, Mccole Hardman can be studying his playbook. He could be working on the intricacies and the finer details of what he's supposed to be doing, as opposed to trying to have the best 40 time and the best shuttle time and all those kinds of things. That's why you see those big jumps from players from year 1 to year 2, because they're getting ready to play football and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, you're just trying to get drafted. If you're Mccole Hardman this time last year, now you know what you can do. You have confidence in what you can do. I'm excited to see what happens this year with him.
We're starting the second half.
Great guy, too.
Oh, yeah. McColl's awesome. And you saw the mic'd up with him at the Super Bowl. You got to see his personality come out. It was great.
And I cover a lot of our community stuff, obviously, and McCole's been in our community a ton. Only being here a year, it's amazing all that he's done out of people in Kansas City.
Carl Jeffers.
Now, this is from Nighthawk saying, if you guys are going to rewatch all the games, I think we're going to do Watch Party Wednesdays every Wednesday, and we're going to be covering a couple of games. So every Wednesday we will do this. We wouldn't be doing it for every game, but I think next week we're going to be doing the Baltimore Ravens. Chiefs Rule KC asked, what are we using to rewatch the game? This is Game Pass, the NFL's website that allows us to rewatch, and they've been gracious enough to let all fans do it. So you can go to NFL.com, go to Game Pass, and create an account, and you can rewatch all the games right now. The NFL's opened it up. Doesn't require any costs or any kind of an account or anything. You get in there and watch these games just like we are right now.
And it's fun. I mean, there's stuff that I've forgotten about. This game feels like so long ago. But to watch it again, to know where this goes, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. This is just perfect Minshew mania right there. That's just a great play by a young quarterback. Moving his feet, finding the open receiver. Open tight end. That was good. Ooh, there's that was that other play from Kendall Fuller we were talking about. His ability to come downhill and hit. You don't always see that from cornerbacks, but if you're going to play for Steve Spagnuolo, you got to be able to come down and hit. So for you guys who love the draft, you're going to look for some of those cornerbacks that everybody's talking about in the draft right now. They've got to be able to tackle. You can't just be a cover guy. You got to be able to stick your nose in there and get dirty.
Last year with the horrific knee injury,
Fournette making a couple of moves. Tyrann Mathieu not letting it. That's LSU on LSU crime.
Yeah. Now, BJ, this is an important couple series of plays right here. Seeing Matthew's effort there to make sure Fournette didn't get extra yards. And also right here, it's second and short, second and 4 yards. Maybe just let them get the first down. They don't. And then see what happens.
Damian
Turnover.
Wilson. stepping up, making a play. And it seemed like anytime there was a fumble on the ground, Bashaud Breeland. You saw it in the Detroit Lions game. We saw it right here. But Damian Wilson's a player that probably didn't get enough credit throughout the course of the season. He was one of those pickups. You have Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu came in at the same time. Damian Wilson didn't get a lot of pub. We didn't talk about him a whole lot. And all he did is go out and lead the team in tackles. He was consistent. He played more snaps than any other linebacker. And you look at situations like that. That was one of the biggest plays in this game, that they were driving. They had a chance to make it a one-possession game, but instead they get the fumble. The Chiefs get the ball back. And this is just one of those grinded-out drives that I felt like took the air completely out of what the Jaguars had left.
And I wanted to, we mentioned the heat earlier, but you were down there on the field. So the Chiefs have scored on all of their offensive drives so far at this point. They just got a turnover. They're up 10 points, and it's really hot. Can you just speak to what it was like on the field and what you could kind of feel that defense going through?
I remember reporting on the radio network from the sideline that towards the end of this drive, you could see the Jaguars' defensive linemen were getting tired. They were subbing out a lot. Calais Campbell kept raising his hand. He was coming out. And Yannick Ngakoue, these guys were mixing in. They were getting tired, and it was just one of those grinded out, take a big lead, and really solidify the victory here in the third quarter. And I felt like it really took the air out of their sails. But I want to say it was over 90 degrees. It may have been hotter than that. I don't quite remember exactly the temperature, but it was definitely warm, and it was definitely something that played a part in the game, particularly towards the end of this drive, where you can see some of those defensive backs, Ronnie Harrison, their young safety, start grabbing a little bit when they start getting tired. So they got a couple of key penalties here at the end of this drive.
Mahomes offline. Try to hit DeMarcus Robinson on the outside.
BJ, I think someone in the comments wants to know what position you would be on the field if you were playing pro football.
Like a holder? No. Played safety in high school. I was really bad. I played quarterback too. I wasn't very good at that either. But probably safety. I feel like I could see things happening and developing in front of me.
I've seen one of your punts. You're a pretty good punter.
I could punt a little bit.
Pretty good.
For high school, for like decent high school. But here's the penalty barrage. You got the first penalty. They're not going to show it on this angle here in the condensed version, but Ronnie Harrison, who was talking a lot of trash for a young player, particularly he's talking a lot to Travis Kelce, which is one of the things I do remember about this game. He gets the penalty right here. There's Ronnie Harrison right there. And then later in this drive is a little pass to Travis Kelce at the top of the screen. But no, Anthony Sherman, how can we forget about the Sherman rumbling, bumbling?
So close.
So upset that he didn't get into the end zone. So upset. We're asking him afterwards, like, you don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. He was not thrilled that he didn't get in the end zone.
Trying to cut back, and Williams
It's good effort from Damian Williams. And Matt, we've talked about this next throw right here. I have no idea how Travis Kelce caught this ball. He's out of bounds. It doesn't count. I have no idea how he caught this ball. No idea. He's upset with himself for not scoring somehow.
It's one of those things like, just give it to him, right? I mean, what an incredible catch.
He catches it out of bounds, and then Ronnie Harrison's taunting. They get the penalty flag, and that was a huge play in this game. It's just a frustrating series. Again, from going down, being in scoring position, the fumble, all the penalties, and it leads to that.
Well, yeah, it's where that frustration, the frustration and the heat both coupling together to make a game that's close, not close. And when you're playing a good team like the Chiefs will take advantage.
That guy knows how to celebrate, though. He gets in the end zone.
All right, BJ, we have a question. Who, in our opinion, improved most on defense during the year? I want to extrapolate a bit out, and I talked about him earlier, but Charvarius Ward, to think where he was when he first came to Kansas City, and now, as you mentioned, ranking high on Pro Football Focus lists, his growth as a cornerback, and just as a football player in general, has been something that's a lot of fun to watch. Because what a great find by Brett Veach and the scouting staff.
I'm going to say it's going to sound obvious, but the reason why it's not is that, my guy is Tyrann Mathieu, just because we saw it about halfway through the year. He was given a lot more freedom with the defense. He understood a lot more. And once he understood everybody's roles, what everybody was supposed to do, and knew the timing of how everything was supposed to come together, I felt like he just started making those game-changing plays late in the season. And not that he wasn't still a great player here early, but it just, everything kind of clicked and transformed. I want to say down in Mexico City, but right there, he would have been, if he hadn't gotten hurt right there, Emmanuel Ogbah would have been one of those guys. Yeah, because coming out of training camp, he's fighting for a roster spot. You weren't sure what the role was going to be. And right there, speaking of guys who also you kind of forget about just because he got hurt, but Alex Okafor, I remember talking about that also a few days after this game. I asked Okafor how much crap he'd been getting from his teammates, and I didn't even give any other context, like just how hard of a time have you been getting. He knew exactly what I meant, and he's just like, they will not stop hounding me about not intercepting that pass.
People might forget about guys like Okafor and Ogba, though, making a really big impact early in the season. When Ogba got hurt, he was leading this team in sacks, and Okafor had a great year as well. Obviously, Ogba's moved on, but I'm excited to see Okafor next year in a Chiefs uniform, see what he can do.
Yeah, it'd be good to see Okafor. I'm glad to see Ogba get paid. It's cool to see that whole trade and that whole thing worked out, sending Eric Murray, getting Ogba back. I think Ogba feels good about the decision, or not that it was his decision to get traded, but the fact that he came to Kansas City, made an impact, and then got a little bit of a payday was great to see. We have another question. Brocky Tacky is asking, who do you think is the most fun to watch? I mean, I like watching the fast guys, so like Tyreek and Mccole, just seeing those guys speed at another level. Yeah. There's just a whole lot of fun up close.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that, but I can't copy you. So I'll say Tyrann Mathieu. If you watch Tyrann Mathieu pre-snap and see how much he's running around before the ball's even been snapped and just how much he knows about what the offense is trying to do, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll say also Frank Clark if you're down on the sidelines because you get to hear everything. It's not always like safe for like children, but it is great to listen to. He's a professional talker, that's for sure. Seeing him and Chris, like, you can hear a lot. See, quarterback using a snap, getting him to jump off sides.
Short of the first down as he's hit by
it's big time. You see development in a quarterback; those are little things that you look for.
Showing I think it's worth
entire command.
I think it's worth mentioning before we get cut off that this game ends around the 6-minute mark.
Yeah,
because of the technical difficulties. But this has been fun so far. I don't know about you.
It's going by really quickly.
Yeah.
Because since we're watching the condensed version, we have to talk over all the plays if we want to make any kind of a point. But just everybody moving around. You see that play design? Just a simple 3rd and 1.
Look at that.
And Damian Williams just not getting tackled by anyone. That's amazing. I think those two guys got hurt too, laying on the sideline. I think I remember using that on a highlight film as well. But I think this is the point where you just saw I don't say the Jaguars gave up because you don't know mentally where they're at, but they were tired.
Yeah. Well, it's hot. The Chiefs scored on every offensive possession, including this one.
I'm sorry. I got excited. So you talk about 3 of the best in the league at what they do. And you get to see the replay right here. You have Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the NFL, one of the best corners, and Sammy Watkins. They let him get physical. Jalen's grabbing, Sammy's pushing, but that is just a great one-on-one rep. And that is what the kind of play that you see at training camp. Those are those one-on-one drills that you see on that far side of the field. If you come up to St. Joe, you're going to see plays just like that all the time. From those DBs, the OLDL has their one-on-one drills, but that's what I love watching at training camp, or plays like that. And then seeing Jalen Ramsey, Sammy Watkins go at it like that was big time. That was a whole lot of fun.
That was 3 touchdowns for Sammy on the day. So he ended up with like 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. One of 4 players in NFL history to start a season with a game like that.
Oh, unreal. Dirty Dan Sorensen.
See, this is the stuff I miss in the press box. I don't get this anymore.
I fumbled it to you in the press box. I couldn't tell you. But on the sideline, I yell and scream, and no one cares.
It's a running play, though. Backwards pass.
Yeah, this game is going to cut off in about 4 game minutes. I think it's around the 6 or 7 minute mark. It cuts out, but it's not breaking news to tell you that we won.
But there's things we miss, like the Frank Clark interception. I still haven't seen that with my own eyes.
Well, he caught it, and it was glorious.
Now, how about that, Tyrann Mathieu? You mentioned the timing earlier. This close.
Yeah, this is what we talk about when Steve Spagnuolo says it's going to take a little time for the defense to come together. This is an example of what that means, is the timing on the blitz, is that he was just a half a second, maybe just 6 inches behind hitting the quarterback. Quarterback's able to get that ball out. When you send a blitz and you send extra guys, there are always going to be weaknesses in your coverage scheme when you run a blitz. You just have less guys in coverage, so you've got to get there. The timing's got to be on. And that was one of those, the timing's just a little bit off, and that's that margin of error in making a big play defensively or picking up a big play offensively.
I think the energy and the culture with this group defensively was there from like OTAs. But once they got that timing down and those little teeny things down, it's game over. Championship defense.
Hey, don't forget Ben Neiman. I will not forget Ben Neiman. He was number 3 on our team in snaps among the linebackers. No one's going to forget Ben Neiman.
Huge play in the Super Bowl, too.
Yeah. There he goes on a little over route, gets on the other side of the linebackers, coming across, just communication, staying plastered. It's just another one of those things that takes with time. D.D. Westbrook coming all across, and that's a really tough thing to ask your defensive backs to cover long enough to see him come all the way across the field like that. That's just a tough cover.
Yeah. Nice throw by Minshew, honestly.
Yeah, you did a good job right there. Sometimes you just tip your cap. The other players make plays too, but that's the end of the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we've got. Next week, we break down and talk through the Baltimore Ravens game. Obviously, we're going to see the entire one of that one. But, Matt, what thoughts do you have on this one as we wrap this show up?
Well, we don't see the final 3 points that we scored, but one thing about this game is it was the most points the Jaguars had allowed at home since 2014. And to start your season that way against a Jaguars team that had high hopes, a talented defense, to hang 40 points on them on the road to start the season, kick things off right, that's for sure. And it was just fun to watch. See this offense follow up 2018 with a huge showing in 2019, and to see this defense start to put things together as well. I had good feelings about this season.
Yeah, and I think you look at the guys who made plays, and you see Sammy Watkins with the hot start to the season, and then you saw him at the end of the year start making plays in the Super Bowl, stepping up in the biggest of situations, making plays. But we appreciate everybody for following along as I'm looking through the comments here. We'll get to more of those next week as we do more of these Watch Party Wednesdays. Again, we appreciate everybody. If you want to watch more of these Chiefs games, again, the NFL has made Game Pass available for everyone. So if you want to log in and watch this game or any more of the games, you're able to do that without paying any money. Go to NFL.com/Game Pass, and you're able to log into that. But again, for Matt McMullen, I am BJ Kissel. We will catch you next week for next time's Watch Party Wednesday, which will be the win over the Baltimore Ravens. Appreciate everybody for watching. We will see you next week.